Just before publishing this tidbit, I saw the news that Julian Assange has been released on bail. This alone is jaw-dropping news that I wasn't sure I'd ever see, and I'm so happy for Julian and his family and his team. I'm glad he is free. I'm going to have another segment on this shortly because it's a complicated thing. While it's a great day for Julian and his family, it's a not so great, in fact, I would say it's a tragic day for free speech. His plea deal that he's going to go to Saipan, which is a U.S. possession in the Northern Mariana Islands, he's going to plead guilty, which is going to legitimize the BS charges against him, and thus true press freedom actually is taking a hit with this. Investigative journalists now run the risk of being charged with espionage. So initially I was beside myself with happiness, but when I looked into the details, it's a lot more complicated. As with almost anything in life, nothing is ever cut and dry, it seems. But just too important of news not to acknowledge. I'm really happy he's free. He's been through such a horrific ordeal. For the crime of letting the people know what the ruling class is up to. So all we can do is continue to fight the good fight. But while it's a victory for Julian and his family, it's a defeat for free speech, and we have to continue to work against this conflation between investigative journalism, the righteous job of whistleblowers and leakers, and that being conflated with espionage under archaic espionage laws. So that's it, and that's that. Let's get into this tidbit. Much love, everybody. Peace. 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 What is up to my luminous, lustrous, lavish, lively, lucid lights of lion-like liberation? Bienvenidos a Barbarian Noetics, where we stay dedicated to the activación y elevación of the human spirit. And I want to thank you so much for dropping in, sharing some headspace, and supporting the podcast. This is an Energy Audio Tidbit, a true Energy Audio Tidbit. And I'm going to be talking about things that I am not just thankful for, but hopeful for. I realize that my skits lately, they've been a bit edgy, and it's because I've been feeling kind of edgy, but I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to want more. I am sick and tired of rolling over for a system that is patently unacceptable, and I will not degrade myself to accepting something that is so fucked. So that's why I cannot stand election season, and I feel like it insults our intellect. Our intellect is being insulted. Every 4 years, and now election season is pretty much all 4 years. It starts as soon as everyone wants to be reelected. Everyone's got egos. The ruling class is a criminal class. It's a criminal class, and it's terrified of us. It's terrified of the masses. It likes to think of the masses as just unwashed hordes of morons, and it's doing everything it possibly can to engineer the masses to be unwashed hordes of morons. But despite their tenacious efforts, we are not hordes of morons. Some of us may be unwashed, and I'm not judging, I go unwashed sometimes for a couple days at a time, so I'm not over here judging. But what it boils down to is I do not want to come across as a doomer. I don't want to be only highlighting the tragedy of the situation. I also want to be solution-oriented and providing hope and inspiration as well. So this is an Energy Audio Tidbit dedicated to hope and inspiration. And I made some notes for things that fill me with, they keep my fuel tank full. They keep my fire burning. They keep me feeling like there's a reason for everything, crouched in my purpose. Like that's when I feel the best, is when I'm crouched in my purpose. And these are the things that keep me crouched. So humanity itself, I have not given up on humanity. And there's so many reasons for that. But in short, the creativity that I see all around me all the time with just everyday people is astounding. People are so innovative in their thoughts, in their expressions, and sometimes it's just a matter of listening to what people have to say, and also providing space for people to be able to express. You can't have sacred space without space. And so creating space where we are free to speak our minds, to brainstorm, to free associate our thoughts, that's where the neurons start to connect, and that's where genius happens. And I see genius all around me. The resilience of humanity continues to astound me. Maybe I'll just jump the gun and talk about it right now. We all have to tame our drama in order to unleash our power. So one of the main damper down of the beauty of everything I see is the everyday drama that so many people are embroiled in. And I'm not above it. I got my everyday drama, my interpersonal drama, relationship drama for days. But we have to tame our drama in order to unleash our power. So there's all these weapons of mass distraction everywhere trying to keep us in a state of the permanent present hamster wheel mentality, where it's just swipe, 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 scroll, 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 and never a moment to sit with our deepest, darkest, most beautiful, most luminous selves. And it's inside, in that deep part of ourselves, there is horrifying darkness and there is exceptional light and beauty. And we all have that within us. But if we're kept in this state of permanent present, permanent distraction, and permanent drama, then they have us right where they want us, because then everyone is just one individual node struggling against this, against that, and it's hard for us to attain some sort of collective awareness so that we can do collective action. That's the key to our kingdom, is the collective action. We have to figure out a way. I am in the US, so I will say for my compatriots, we have to find a way to honor people's liberties and individuality in such a way that we can work collectively. It's now or never. And a big stumbling block to collective action, I think, is because of the extensive brainwashing against collectivism of any form. It's been systematically, mnemonically linked with communism and socialism, and so many people are just turned off by it, and we see ourselves subconsciously as Americans as these individual nodes that just have to struggle. But you do not have to struggle by yourself. You can struggle collectively. You can struggle with a group. You can struggle with a team. We can be allies to one another in our struggles, and that requires courage and vulnerability. Courage and vulnerability in terms of reaching out across the divide and making yourself known to others in a way that you can actually relate to one another. This is the bottleneck as I see it. And the fact is, the ruling class is fucking terrified because the contradictions in society are deepening. People are having a hard time. Carrots are $53. I'm getting fees on top of my fees, on top of my taxes, on top of my fees. My electric bill reads like a fucking... I don't know if y'all have CVS where you're listening, but when CVS does a receipt, it just goes it prints for 5 minutes, and they give you a toilet paper roll for a receipt. That's what my electric bill looks like. And when I read all the fine print, I'm the actual, where it says cost of electricity is 1/15 of my bill. So 85% of my bill is going to whatever the fuck. I get it that you gotta pay the people, you gotta compensate the people, all that. I'm down. I love my local electrician, our city workers. They deserve to be compensated, but they be adding fees on top of fees. They just be getting bored and adding fees. You need to boost your quarterly profits, add a fee. So every quarter there's a new fee. There's the fee for the human fee. You're a human and you want electricity, so that's a fee. There's a fee because we built a nuclear reactor in the middle of a desert. So there's the fee for being brave, ballsy enough for living in a place where your power comes from a nuclear reactor in the middle of a desert. And it just goes on from there. So This is all to say that people are starting to think outside the box by necessity, because that's what happens when the struggle gets real for people. Is it's like forces you, when one must, one can. And so I see like the just under the surface, there's this underground of very inspiring, potent potential of true movement building and collective action to, I don't know, demand our republic back, have a say in what these assholes are doing in our name, refusing to be complicit in genocide, as Aaron Bushnell showed us in the most stark possible way when he self-immolated in front of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. These are signs that there is an underground that's bubbling, bubbling, bubbling. And that's the thing about Yellowstone, baby. Yellowstone is Yellowstone until it's not. Until that caldera explodes, life as we know it is going to be changed permanently. And it's that type of power that is just under the surface of our very like nerfed and artificially kind of static society situation. There's a lot of power there, and it just has to be harnessed. And it starts with us allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and taming our drama and refusing to just struggle by ourselves. I see little signs of hope. I see glimmers of hope. I'm going to share that. The days of workers in the US who are working for minimum wage with no benefits, the days of those folks just laying down and accepting any old bullshit is over. You know, I see a lot of like petite bourgeois types, and their panties are all in a bunch right now because they're saying like, oh, people just don't know how to work no more. And it's like, no, it's that people are refusing to be degraded. People are having standards for themselves, and workers know that, hey, if I'm working already minimum wage for no benefits, I got a billion options. I'm gonna seek out a situation that actually treats me like a human, treats me with dignity, and treats me with respect. This is a sign of workers leveraging their power, because workers do have the power. The businesses don't run without the workers. There's no way they can get the self-doing everything robots intact in time to like handle society the way human beings need to handle society. Don't even get me started about the fucking robot cars. Jesus, these robot cars are everywhere in Phoenix. It's insane. If it wasn't such a libertarian-ass state, I don't think it would be allowed to happen, because these robot cars would be fucking going wrong way on one-ways and friggin' cutting people off and taking up two lanes where there's... taking up, like, the middle of the lane when there's two lanes. These cars are off the chain, folks. But I'm getting sidetracked. So, two final thoughts that give me fuel for hope is, just as we don't have to struggle by ourselves, we don't have to conquer our fear by ourselves necessarily. I think that all conquering of fear happens within. Ultimately, I do believe that's true. However, I also think that that whole thing of everything happens from within, it can be misguiding in a way, because it can cause you to think that you don't need other people. And my experience is we do need other people. We are social beings, and other people, especially other folks we can trust, other folks that know us really well, family that we can trust. This allows us to see our blind spots. And so this can help us to conquer this fear, because it's the fear that is paralyzing the movements. There is a very deep-seated fear. I could go on about this for a long time, but I think there's like a lot of subconscious guilt and shame and repression, a refusal to look at the shadow side of our society, and that creates a lot of insecurity and uncertainty in the psyche. So I think there's a lot of fear bubbling, and I know certainly for myself, I have fear all the time. There's a lot to be afraid of out there, let's be honest. We don't have to conquer fear as individual alone nodes in a vacuum. We can work together to face and overcome our fear. And I posit that the more that we do that, the more that we come together in a collective way, in a cooperative way, to conquer fear together, the easier it will actually be to conquer the fear. Because we'll start to realize that there's power in numbers, we have the numbers, and what is it that we're actually afraid of? Everyone, this neurotic drive to try to eliminate risk is such a symptom of what I'm talking about. You cannot eliminate risk. Life is inherently risky. Every single thing in life contains risk. You can do things to mitigate risk. Like, you don't have to follow the lemmings off the cliff. You can stay on the land. You don't have to eat plastic. You can eat organic produce. But there's lots of, like, you cannot eliminate, and there's lots of things you can hardly even mitigate the risk. Every time you get behind the wheel of a car, you are taking such a huge risk because you have no idea what the other psychos around you are going to do. And so as we start to really look collectively at, like, what are we so afraid of, I believe that we'll start to actually feel genuinely less fear, because we'll start to think, like, well, what is it? You know, I think that the ultimate fear is death. And so we have this, like, terror inside ourselves of mortality, of dying. The fact is, nobody here gets out alive. This is one chapter. The soul is eternal, and we have to live it, like, with everything we have while we can. And so I think as a collective, if we start to get to that level of, like, I'm living for my legacy, I'm living with a purpose, I'm living to manifest in a good way for everyone, that will start to create a whole nother climate. And then you start to get the collective consciousness, you start to feel that as a collective. The power is immense, and that's why the ruling class is so scared of us. Last thought is, breakthroughs happen without warning and unpredictably. This is something I have seen over and over again in my own life, and over again as I study history. Breakthroughs happen fast, without warning, and unpredictably. So all this underground energy, all this underground bubbling up, it's gonna break through. And the breakthrough will not be televised. We're not gonna know necessarily the breakthrough's coming. The breakthrough's not gonna look like a pre-planned, permitted march where you have the po-po on either side of you, mean mugging you while you march with your signs, which I'm not bad-mouthing that. That's important. It's an important method, technique of protesting and refusing to accept, but it is just the tip of the iceberg. And the breakthrough that I see as inevitable, it's not going to be permitted, it's not going to be televised, it's not going to be predicted, it's going to happen, boom, without warning, and it's going to be overpowering. And so let's start to solidify ourselves and ground ourselves for that reality. We can create a better world. It does not have to be so fucked, and we do not have to allow these criminals to do whatever the fuck they want with no consequences. We are not that powerless. So seize your power, tame your drama, don't struggle by yourself, leverage your power. We are not our devices, and we are not our machines. We are a higher dimension of being. We are 3D plus time plus all the intangibles. We have precognizant abilities. Our intuitions are off the chain. That's part of our power, is that we are so unpredictable. Machines are programmable. Devices are programmable. This makes them predictable. This makes them not a threat to anything. This makes them part of the system, part of the status quo. We are not our machines. Let's not act like machines. Let's be humans. All the good, the bad, the ugly. Don't be afraid to cry. Don't be afraid to shout. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable to people that you trust, and even vulnerable sometimes to people you don't know. Give it a shot. Talk to people. Listen to what they have to say. I learn a lot by actually listening to what the folks on the street have to say, rather than just like scurrying away or giving $1. I listen to what these people have to say, and I've learned a lot. Obviously sometimes folks are a little strung out. They might not make a ton of sense. Sometimes people are kind of going phases where they make sense and don't make sense. But even if I'm talking to someone who's clearly strung out, there's that thread of humanity that is so enlivening and so illuminating. It has power in it. It's the very stuff that makes us human. And the only reason why this individual on the street is strung out and living off fentanyl is because our society failed this person. We did not recognize that maybe this person has sacred power. Maybe this person has gifts. back in the day, people weren't schizophrenic. They were like holy people. They were holy people that could see other dimensions that we can't see. This is all about mindset. It's all about opening our hearts and opening our minds, and it's all possible. So I love you all. I thank you so much for continuing to support the podcast. I felt called to jump on the mic and just share a little bit of positivity today, because I realize that I do go hard in the paint, and sometimes my skits can go really deep and get into some really hard stuff. And I just wanted to kind of touch base and ground and just let everyone know that I myself, anyways, speaking for me, am very optimistic about the future. I have not lost faith in humanity, and I refuse to be degraded and debased by dog and pony circus shows every 4 years. I refuse to be degraded and debased by not trusting my eyes, by not having the faith and confidence to do my own research, to find out about things, to learn the truth. I won't shy away from the truth. I urge you not to either. That's it, and that's that. Much love, everybody. Have a beautiful night.
I'm already safe. Thought I had done it all, but I got some grace. Even a bit